Welcome back, everyone. This is the Changelog, and I'm your host, Adam Stacoviak. This is episode 166. And on today's show, we got an awesome show about JavaScript. JavaScript in the wild, as a matter of fact. We're talking to 3 of 6 of the awesome organizers behind NEJS Conf 2015, happening August 7th in Omaha, Nebraska. Today, we're talking to Zach Leatherman, Nick Nisi, and also co-host of the show, Jerod Santo, who is doubling as an organizer of this awesome conference. We have 3 awesome sponsors for the show: CodeShip, TopTal, and HipChat. Our first sponsor is CodeShip, and they've launched a brand new feature called Organizations. Now you can create teams, set permissions for specific team members, and improve collaboration in your continuous delivery workflows. Maintain centralized control over your organization's projects and teams with CodeShip's new organizations plans. You can save 20% off any plan you choose for 3 months by using the code The Changelog Podcast. Again, that code is The Changelog Podcast, and you'll save 20% off any plan you choose for 3 months by using that code. Head to codeship.com/thechangelog to get started. And now on to the show. All right, we're back. We got a great show lined up today. It's all about JavaScript today. As a matter of fact, it's not just JavaScript, it's JavaScript in the wild. We have 3 of 6 of the organizers making NEJS Conf 2015 happen. So we got Jerod on the line, we got Nick on the line, and we got Zach on the line. Everybody say hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, so who's excited about this conference?
Woo!
Everybody.
Yeah, I think we're all excited. I think that we're all nervous. We're kind of going into the last couple of weeks here, so everything's kind of starting to come together.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So today's record day is July 21st. The release date, so the air date, is planned to be July 24th. And the conference, so everybody's listening and potentially clicking a button to go buy a ticket, if there's some left, is August 7th. It's Friday.
Correct.
So we got, roughly 150 people, 200 people coming. Is it fully sold out yet? What's the state?
I think we got about 30 or 40 tickets left. So if people want to get on board, they got to buy their tickets soon.
Okay. So just to start this show off right, let's get to know everybody here. So everybody knows Jerod, right? Jerod, you're known. You're normal.
I don't know if I'm normal, but I'm normally on the show. So
you're normally on this show. People know who you are. So Jerod Santo, you live in Omaha, Nebraska.
Correct.
You work with these fellas here and some others on organizing this conference.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give an intro to yourself for those who may not know who you are?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, Jerod Santo. I live in Omaha, Nebraska. Helping organize this conference. Co-host of the Changelog.
That's right.
What else do you want to know, Adam?
Object Lateral.
Yeah, so I'm a software developer on contract. Object Lateral is my company. I also do some teaching at web dev boot camp called Interface School. 4 kids, a wife.
See, nobody knows this about you on this show. We don't get to talk about your details too often.
Yeah.
Those are your details, right?
It feels strange. The light is shining on me now. I don't like this.
The veil just being pulled back a little tiny bit, and
I prefer to ask the questions. All
these Jerod Santo secrets are being exposed. We'll leave you alone for a bit then. Zach, how about you? Zach Leatherman, by the way.
I'm Zach Leatherman. I also live in Omaha. I am one of the co-organizers of Nebraska JS. One of 6 organizers for the conference. I work for Filament Group, which is a small design and development consultancy in Boston. I think that's about it.
What is Nebraska JS?
Nebraska JS is the meetup from which the Nebraska JS conference was born from. Okay. So Nebraska JS started as a meetup, I think, in 2009, and it kind of fizzled out in 2012, and that's when I kind of took over from 3 people that were kind of looking to get rid of it. And we made a couple changes to it, started publishing all the talks and meetup videos online, getting a bunch of different speakers to come in, and just kind of grew the meetup from that. So
Zach's also a frequent conference attendee and speaker. He's spoken at Smashing Conf, Velocity,
Nice.
CSS Conf. He even spoke at the White House recently.
What? Are you kidding
He's
me?
being humble, but I won't be humble for him. So.
Come on, tell us about that.
Yeah, so they invited a bunch of meetup organizers to go to the White House to speak, and just kind of highlight people that were doing things to get people involved with technology in their communities. So I was probably the most underqualified person there, but there was a ton of very talented and very amazing people doing crazy things in their development communities to get people involved with technology. So people that were doing code schools, people that were trying to help people get out of poverty by learning to code, and humble meetup organizers like myself. So
well, you did revive it, though. You said it was dying in 2012. You took it over, and it's now, I'm sure it's blossoming because you got a conference coming from it.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the big goals that I had when I took it over, or that was kind of one of the long-term goals that we wanted to do. And now it's finally happening. So
cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
And silent so far is Nick Nisi. So Nick, you're
Hello.
a software engineer at SitePen.
Yes.
Intro this awesome audience to yourself.
I want to hear more about
this
Jerod.
awesome audience.
What's that?
I said I want to hear more about Jerod. Actually, no.
don't.
I'm a software developer at SitePen. I work remotely. It's a 100% remote development consulting team, mostly doing JavaScript and TypeScript these days. And I'm also a co-organizer of Nebraska JS and of the NEJS Conf, or Nebraska JS Conf.
Anybody else on your team, guys, that you want to give a shout out to that's not present here?
Definitely.
Yeah, we have Matt Steele, who works for Union Pacific. He's one of our organizers. We have Sandy Barr, and we also have John Hobbs.
Very cool. And so you got 6 people this year putting on the very first version of this conference. So this is August 7th. So it's not very far away. The changelog will be there. We're shooting our 4th season of Beyond Code there. We'll also be shooting some video for the actual conference itself, and just kind of being a part of the mix there. But as a first-time conference, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, or some of the biggest things you were most excited about actually doing this conference, being its first time?
We kind of had no idea what we were doing starting out.
That's usually the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody was in over their heads? I mean, has someone had some experience doing any of this stuff?
Well, I mean, it just kind of started from the meetup, I think. Actually, the original idea probably came from JS Conf in Florida. A couple of us went down there to the JavaScript conference. They had it at Amelia Island. It's a pretty big JavaScript conference. And Chris Williams, the organizer down there, really encouraged people to sort of start things in their own development communities and get things growing from grassroots to try and probably get more tickets sold for the big JS Conf there. So, I think it was just kind of born out of an idea, just kind of sitting around drinking on the beach at Amelia Island at a resort. We're like, hey, we could do something like this, having no idea what we were really getting ourselves into. But a couple of years after that, we finally decided to pull the trigger and organize it. So,
well, I think you've done pretty well here so far with your first time. I've never been to a conference that's been at a zoo, which does sort of lean towards the subtitle, which is JavaScript in the Wild. So, I mean, why a zoo? It's the Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium there in Omaha. And Jerod, you've talked about this a couple of times too, on the private side, just, when we're talking about this conference. What's unique about the zoo?
Well, I mean, in Omaha, there's not too much to do. We probably have a worse reputation. Nebraska has a more boring and yawny reputation than perhaps it deserves. Maybe it's accurate. But, Omaha's a decent-sized metropolitan, and there's actually kind of a burgeoning creative and technology scene, even a small startup scene here in Omaha and in the Midwest. But we really wanted to highlight one of Omaha's main attractions and have something that's different than a lot of conferences that you typically go to. So the Henry Dorley Zoo is huge. It's one of the best zoos in the world. In fact, TripAdvisor calls it Is it America's number one zoo or the world's number one zoo?
The world's.
I think it's
In the
world's number
world.
one.
Wow.
So take that, world.
It has the largest cat complex, indoor jungle, indoor desert, and I think that's it. And also largest aquarium that's also attached to a zoo.
For a long time, we played second fiddle to San Diego. I think just because they had raw square footage over us. But at some point in the last couple of years, we've overtaken them and are now number one. So yeah, it just seemed like a really cool, unique place to have a conference about JavaScript.
Will we see any animals by any chance?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have some live animal demos, animals roaming around.
Deploying code.
We're going to have some zookeepers come in and bring in and show some animals around in the conference venue. So it should be pretty unique, pretty cool.
Cool.
And also the conference venue itself is a conference center that's attached to the aquarium and includes a 24-foot, 10,000-gallon reef aquarium. So there will be a lot of fish in there as well.
Oh, we love fish. Fish are very welcome here on the changelog. Speaking of fish, we have a single track conference. So this is a single day, single track, small group. So I guess being born from a meetup, it would make sense to start out, in the smaller scale. So I think some of my favorite conferences to go to are 200 people or less because they just feel a little bit more intimate. But coming off the heels of GopherCon, I also enjoy 12 to 1,500. It just kind of depends on what place you're doing it in. So being that it's this first year, what were some of the things that you focused on as I guess from a speaker standpoint and also just making everyone feel comfortable? I mean, conferences are a lot of work. So what was the focus initially placed on when setting it up? Well,
I think we wanted to keep it, or I wanted to keep it single track just to make it simpler logistically. It simplifies things a lot for the organizers, but I also really enjoy single track conferences more because you always get that fear of missing out when you have a multiple track conference. You don't know what's going on in the other track, or you don't know what you're missing. And we really want to minimize the number of decisions that attendees have to make. We don't want to have people have to choose between talks. And I think I don't know. I just like it a lot better. I just like single track a lot better. I don't know if Nick, do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I think basically it's a lot simpler to do that. It works out well at the venue to have just a single speaker at a time, at least for this first one. And being our first conference, I've been to some multi-track conferences, and it seems like it's a lot more work to make sure that everything's coordinated and everything's synchronized. And so it just seemed like a lot easier of a place to start. And it also gives us the opportunity to highlight all of the speakers that we're inviting to come in. And we've got speakers coming in from all over the world, and even a couple of local speakers to kind of highlight the local talent that we have as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Nick, because one of the reasons that we wanted to do a conference and the reason that we do the meetup is that we're trying to expose more local developers to the community. And I think a single track helps do that as well. People that are kind of not quite as well known can get a little bit better exposure with the single track conference.
Do you guys know the ratio of local speakers to out-of-towners?
Yeah, I think we have 3 local speakers out of 9.
What was the process like, I guess, to one, obviously it's a single track, so it's got to be, the topics have got to be enough closer to a middle barrier where it's not too new, but it's not too senior, and then you're sort of in the middle there. What was the process like coming up with some topics, the call for proposal? What was the selection like and actually choosing some of the speakers?
I think the talk selection process was pretty grueling. It was we spent the whole night at the bar. I don't know, maybe you're seeing an organizing theme here, but fighting over what talks we wanted. And it got a little dirty.
Did it really?
some politics came up.
Anybody get any beer tossed?
No, I don't
that
think
dirty.
so. Well, we don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to go that extreme. We don't want to waste any of
Don't be wasting
any of the
alcohol.
liquids. But yeah,
Well, I think we did have a bent, and this is something that Zach promotes heavily at the meetup, which is practicality. So the Nebraska JS meetup tries to highlight topics and speakers who are using JavaScript in a practical, real world, take it home and use it kind of way. And so even the subtitle JavaScript in the wild is kind of a play on words because it's, of course, in the zoo, but it's also like these are things that you can actually take. These are things JavaScript is doing
Right.
out there every day, running websites and businesses and these things. And so we wanted to balance that with also fun and like enjoyable and interesting things. And so speaker selection was difficult because we care about the speakers and we also care that these topics kind of like played into that ballpark. And so that's where a lot of the rub kind of focused.
Are these titles in stone that are on site? Because I was going to read a couple off, if y'all don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
So we got somebody help me with some names. I think it's I'm going to say Selly, Pam Selly. Is that right? Believe in Streams.
I think it's Pam Cell. But
So,
I'm
all right,
not
the E may be
sure.
silent. Isaac Murchie, you and the Temporal Dead Zone ES6 variables for fun and profit. I'll just read the titles from here on out because I might butcher some names and offend people, but add a tool to your development suite's Army knife using custom elements today. Architecting communities is the next one. SVG animation with Snap SVG. High performance in the critical rendering path, which I think we've talked about recently, Jerod, a little bit here on the show. And then also reacting to the isomorphic buzz. So I'm assuming that's a play on words too, because React's got to be in there somewhere,
Yep.
right? So
That's right.
more play on words, more fun from Bruce. Good job, Bruce. So, I mean, was it a real fight when it came to choosing some of these speakers and some of the talks we just talked over?
I really think so. I think we had 78 total submissions.
Wow.
And I mean, we only had 7 speaker slots and then 2 keynote slots. And so we had to whittle it down from that. And it was really, really hard. So we all kind of looked at the submissions kind of on our own and started to prioritize the ones that we really liked. All of them were really fantastic. So it was really hard to do that. But then we came together and shared our lists with each other, found the ones that were a common theme across all of the organizers, and then kind of got a first pass with maybe 1 or 2. And then the rest of the night was just arguing about the other ones, reprioritizing the list and going on and on.
So what's the total people count and total hour count going into making the selections?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, when it came down to doing the final talk discussion, we decided to limit that to only one night because we could have done that for weeks and weeks and weeks, I'm sure. But I think we spent probably a good solid week on individual talk selection and then group selection as well. So,
What were some of the things that when you were discussing the talks and topics, and what were some of the things you could do? I remember, Jerod, I'm thinking back to the show we had with Sarah May when she said that they purposefully hid people's names and genders and things like that so they wouldn't be biased against it. What was some of the process y'all used to sort of have an unbiased opinion towards your selections?
Yeah, I definitely did that. And I hit it, looked at just the titles and the descriptions of the talks to begin with. And that's kind of how I started with my side of the list. And then from there, I started looking at, I got my list from there on the things that I thought were most interesting. And then I started thinking about things like, wanting to have a good mix of local developers and more known developers as well. And so it kind of went from there.
and tech talks versus more soft skills talks. And
Yeah, good point.
Is there any talk here, or even just maybe not a person named, but just the topic or title named that one of you guys fought over hardcore and didn't make the cut for whatever reason?
That's a good question. I don't really remember the talks that we didn't select because that process, I think, took place, I want to say like a couple months ago.
Okay.
So,
any that you're really excited about then that's in the list?
yeah, I mean, I think all of them are going to be great. I think that Nicholas Vacqua's talk on high performance and the critical rendering path is one of the ones that I really kind of pushed hard for because I think it's a very important topic, especially with the number of sort of client-side MVC frameworks that are kind of slowing down the critical performance aspect of websites today. So,
Yeah, I'm excited for that one as well. I think I wasn't aware of Nicholas Vacqua prior to that. And I think he submitted was he the guy that submitted like 4 or 5? Like he just had talks. Is that him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had at least 3, and he was just throwing them in there, which is like, okay, this person's excited.
So, somehow he found our CFP before we even publicized it. I don't know how that happened.
They're not usually hard to find. Is it /CFP?
Yeah.
There you go. See, he's probably got a JavaScript bot just out there submitting his talks to all these.
There's a life hack right there.
Conferences.
Yeah. Here's a couple of tips that I could give to people who are submitting CFPs and like hoping to get selected. Just as people who have recently done this, and these shouldn't be had to be said, but I guess they do because we ran into this over and over. So the first thing you need to do is spell your talk title correctly. If you misspell your title, you're not giving yourself much of a chance to get selected. Then to proofread your synopsis, have somebody else read it for you. Read it out loud. Make sure that the sentences make sense because there's a lot of competition out there. And even if your conceit is really good, it's hard, even as a person who's like, I think there was one that had some bad grammar that I was like rooting for and I was arguing for, and I just couldn't get over the hurdle of, but they did not take the time to make sure their words are spelled correctly in their synopsis, and so we can't trust them as a speaker. So those are just a couple of tips, which sound like common sense, but apparently not, for people who are submitting proposals to CFPs. And then that's an awesome tip is go to whatever the conference is /CFP and see if you can get in early and bombard us with multiple submissions because he was immediately on our radar because he had 3 talks in there before anybody did. It's like, wow, this guy's serious. So anyways, just a few small tips that I couldn't believe we ran into so many almost lazy submissions, and how even though on a few of those they seem like great talk ideas, I just couldn't get over the hurdle of, slow down, take the time, do it right.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Zach or Nick, on any feedback to those out there listening, thinking, man, I want to submit a talk to a conference sometime soon, or I've done it and I've never gotten selected, some feedback or some tips?
Yeah, I would say get involved with the organizers. I would have been happy to review any number of submissions before the deadline went, but I never heard anything. Like, no one asked me any questions, and I think we put on the website even, hey, we'll help you with your submission if you want our feedback up front. And yeah, I think that can help quite a bit, just to even refine your ideas with them before you even put in a submission. I think could help your chances quite a bit.
Another big piece to any conference is obviously sponsors and what equates to cash flow, really. So, I mean, it seems like, and Jerod, only because you and I have talked outside of this, I've kind of been following a little bit of what's going on here, but it seems like as a first-time conference, you've got some sort of trick up your sleeve or something like that, because you're doing okay on, finances from what I can tell in terms of your homepage. You got plenty of sponsors. So what was it like going out and seeking out either local or, industry known sponsors? What was the process like, and who was in charge of that?
Yeah, I think that was kind of a team effort between me and Nick. Nick is a lot better at emailing than I am. So for sure he took the reins on a lot of the sponsor contacts. But I think the running the meetup really was the biggest thing. We were already exposed to a lot of companies in our community because their developers were attending our meetup, and we've been going strong for over 3 years now. When I took over, so everyone kind of knew about the meetup already, and because we sort of transitioned from meetup to conference, there was a very clear line between the two, and people are excited to get involved. And we've actually had companies kind of fight over us to get to provide us with venues for the meetup or to provide us with food. I mean, we've never had a problem getting sponsorship for the meetup. And I think the conference was kind of a continuation of that. The support that we see from companies is just, I think, kind of a unique thing in Omaha, just because there isn't a ton of, I want to say, bigger development communities in our area. We've had a lot of meetups, but I think they kind of, I don't want to say come and go, but they haven't really united different development aspects like JavaScript can. Sort of everyone is exposed to JavaScript in some way, so that's also helped us grow the meetup too.
We have a lot of support coming out of that, just as Zach said, and it was really when we were going to get sponsors, and we actually had more pressure to get like an information document out about sponsoring, because we had sponsors just lining up immediately that wanted to contribute. They wanted to help out. They wanted to make sure that this conference sees the light of day, and we really couldn't do it without them. So it's been really great.
What are some of the biggest questions you guys can think of when it comes to a sponsor and asking questions back to the conference? Like, what are their biggest concerns? What are their biggest questions that took you time to get over, or just get questions back to get them to commit to the support, or even lack of support?
We did have a little bit of a problem with the sponsor that I won't name, but yeah, they kind of promised us some funds and then went dark, so we never really heard back from them. And we had kind of made some decisions monetarily based on assumption of those funds, and we're going to be fine monetarily, but certainly that didn't help the conference, that we kind of had that check sort of disappear out from under us.
Right. I'm just wondering because, a lot of you always have levels, so I'm assuming you had levels.
Yep.
Thinking about typical levels is like, premium, gold, platinum, pick your metallic material and then apply the level to it or whatever. But I'm wondering.
Yeah, we actually did animals.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So top level was lion, I'm assuming?
Elephant.
There you go. Well, that makes sense.
So what we do is we pick a metaphor and then we just beat it into the ground. So
right.
This whole animal thing, like we're just gonna kill it until it's dead, and then we're gonna bring it back and kill it some more.
Any whales? Because I like whales.
I thought that was a little too on the nose,
Yeah. And when it comes to like big things and money, you hear, man, I got a whale on the line here. Elephant.
Well, that's kind of why we picked elephants. The elephant in the room.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about the process there, because I know that, even for this show, right? It's a sponsored show, so we get questions all the time about, the podcast and what it's about and, all these different things. So I'm just wondering, like, when a sponsor comes to a conference or a conference goes to a sponsor and says, hey, we'd like to see your support in this conference because of this, or this, what are some of the things that are like getting them involved or seeking you to them? Is it purely a financial benefit, or is it like they're getting involved in the community, they're already there?
A lot of them are already there. They're already sponsoring us, helping us out, or at least trying to, because we can only have so many venues that we can host it at each month, and things like that. But also, looking like one of the biggest questions that I got when communicating with sponsors was kind of not in like specific detail, but like, what are you going to use the money for? How is it going to go to helping the conference? And, if you have money left over, what are you going to do with it? Things like that. And really just making sure that their investment is going into the community. And it really is. It's either going into this conference or feeding back into the meetup, that we have every month, or going into immediate planning for next year's conference, should we decide to do that.
So just to be clear, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme.
No.
Right?
Or it's the worst one ever.
It's the worst one ever.
Get rich never. Yeah.
So that makes some perfect sense. You know, what are you using the money for? And, you know, will you give some of it back if there's some left over? Did anybody ask you that one?
No one asked me that one.
No?
No, they just wanted to make sure that we weren't doing it as a profit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That seems to be the case. We're going to take a break here in a second because I got a couple things I want to bring up on that note, but we got to break first and come back because we have awesome sponsors who make this show possible, and we need to feature them. So let's take a quick break. We'll do that, and we'll come back and talk a bit more about why the conference exists and you know, what we can expect for it from it in the future. So let's take a break. You've heard me talk about TopTal several times on this podcast, but today is different. I've got a special treat for you. I went out and spoke with a listener who a year ago had never heard of TopTal. He listened to the show just like you're doing right here, right now, today, and heard us talk about TopTal and what they're all about, and he decided to get in touch. And now he's living the dream as a freelance software developer with TopTal. His name is Daniel Elzon, and I sat down and I talked with him. I said, hey, what is it that you love most about TopTal? Take a listen.
Well, for me, the thing about TopTal, which I thought would be very hard for me personally as I transitioned to a more consulting role, was the way I would have access to new clients and what quality of those would be. So I found that I've had access to awesome clients through TopTal, and it hasn't been that hard to find because they have a lot of choice. And even more than that, there's enough choice, and I can actually be a little selective about what kinds of things I want to be working on. So I use that as a way to sort of hone my skills and, you know, go towards the technology that I think are worth investing in for the future. So whether it's, you know, including new front-end frameworks or doing a little DevOps work on the side, I usually am able to find clients who are have the needs of the things I want to get better at. So that's been truly useful.
All right, that was Daniel Elzon, a listener of the Changelog and also a freelance software developer with TopTal. If you want to follow in Daniel's footsteps, go to toptal.com/developers. That's TOPTAL.com/developers to learn more about what TopTal's all about and tell them the Changelog sent you. Well, let's talk about why this conference exists. I know that it's its first year. Obviously, it's a single track. We're looking at, you know, roughly 150 to 200 people attending. We know it's at a zoo, and we're playing the animal puns to the end, you know, and we won't stop ever.
No.
So why, you know, what made this? Why finally this year? Why finally 2015? You know, why did it take so long, and why does it exist?
So that is a very good question, why it's happening this year. I think that the final impetus kind of came out of Jerod's goading me into it, because I had promised, so we had a meetup, I want to say probably a year and a half or 2 years ago, where we announced to everyone that one of our stretch goals or one of our big goals for the meetup was to do a conference eventually. And so that was kind of on everyone's mind that was going to be something we were going to do. But it just kind of sat there. Nothing ever happened. And I think it was Jerod that finally said, hey, are we going to do this conference ever? Is this going to happen? And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, as it were. It's Jerod's goading us into organizing. So
I'm actually laughing behind the scenes here too, and I'm trying not to put it on air because that's how a lot of things get started around here at the Changelog too. I'm like, I tell Jerod these ideas, and he gets excited about the ideas, and then it's like, well, are we ever going to do these fun ideas, Adam?
yeah.
And I'm like, I suppose, sure, let's do it, and we do it. So, Jerod, it's nice to see that you impact others as well in the same way.
This is why I have no free time, because I'm constantly filling it with. I goad people. Did you say goad or goat, Zach?
I said goad.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if that was another pun. I just bug people until we do things, and then I'm like, oh, dang, now we have to do that.
No, we have to do
I
it.
was
Yeah.
really just kind of jabbing at them, but now we're putting on a conference, I guess. And I told my wife, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to help put on a conference. She's like, that sounds like a big thing. I'm like, is it? There's 6 of us. Turns out it is, even with 6.
Even with 6. I was going to say, so how does this... Did we answer the question, though, first, why it exists? I mean, Jerod goading you, and not goading you. But, what about the local community? What's the meetups like? You said it came from a meetup, so what was attendance like? Was it getting bigger? Is JavaScript exploding there as it is everywhere else?
Yeah, I think it is. The meetup has grown. We have, I think, over 700 some people in our meetup group on meetup.com/NebraskaJS, if anybody's interested. And yeah, it's just kind of grown and grown and grown. And I think the biggest meetup event that we've had, I think, had around 80 some attendees.
And Jerod was speaking.
Yeah, Jerod spoke at that one. So I guess Jerod was kind of our headliner.
Whoa, Jerod. And Angular. I thought maybe you'd be talking about React or something like that to get a crowd like that.
Well, this was back when Angular was blowing up last year, a year and a half ago.
Pre 2.0 Angular.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
No hurts against them. Just, biased.
Well, as we say, open source is hard, and
Right.
everybody's out there trying to do awesome stuff. And kind of the trends come and go, and Angular's definitely on a downtrend as far as overall popularity, or maybe mind share, but still out there doing cool things and people using it in mass. So
everybody seems to be, if you put React in the title, or if you go the route of Bruce reacting, a little sleight of hand there with the title there.
Mm-hmm.
Well done, Bruce.
It's gonna get some. So big meetup. It got to as many as 80 at one point. Jerod, that was a couple years ago. On Jared's point, so it got to a point where it just naturally made sense to put on a conference. And this is Middle America. One thing I liked about some notes here, which aren't exactly easy to find for every conference. Number one, you have a shuttle going to and from the airport, which is free, which is awesome. So anytime I go to a conference, I'm like, where do I have to spend money to get to and from? Because people always assume, okay, I'm going to a conference and the airport is going to be right next door. No, that's not always the case. Like in Denver, it was $60 to get to and from the airport back to the conference land. So it was quite expensive. And then you got to do it twice, right? To and from. So that's $120 just on taxi to and from the airport. And then you got the walking distance, the after party, and things like that. So it seems like you guys have done some planning around this to also kick it off.
Yeah, we're kind of trying to make it like an all-inclusive resort in Omaha. Like a Sandals, as it were.
Yeah, at the zoo.
Yeah, go to the airport, get the shuttle to the hotel. We're going to have a shuttle to the zoo and back. We're going to have 2 meals, I think it sounds like. We're talking about finalizing the evening meal as well. So
live band,
that's neat.
Band, yeah. Yeah, that'll be really cool.
Is that
8-bit
at the after party? That's the live band time.
Yep.
Who is the band name?
The Super Bites.
Super Bites. That's cool. Is it local band or?
Yeah, it is. All of them are local. I actually went to high school with 2 of them.
The Super Bites?
Yes.
All right. I just found them on Bandcamp. We'll link this up in the show notes because they are rocking the Super Mario style graphics, 8-bit all the way.
Yeah, I think they, Nick, don't they do some sampling with some unique hardware?
Yeah, they use a Nintendo and a Game Boy on stage, and they have pre-set up tracks that they created on those devices. So it's a really unique experience.
So that's the after party, and we got all this time so far, and we haven't talked about two of the names I think almost anyone listening to the show might know, Ethan Marcotte and Christian. I always want to say it's Heilman or Heilman. Anybody know the correct pronunciation of Christian's last name?
I do not.
What do you think, Jerod?
I will say Heilman, though.
Heilman. I was going to go
That's what
Heilman.
I thought.
Heilman. All right.
Code Poet.
Code Poet. Those are, I never read that as Code Poet, Jerod. I always just took it as Code Po 8.
Me too.
All All right, nice.
We're learning.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
That's it. So Ethan Marcotte, he's doing the closing, and Christian's starting it off. What was getting these two involved like? I mean, how did it happen? Did somebody email them? Was it, you bumped into them at another conference? How did this work out?
So Ethan has actually done some work with Filament Group, which is the company I work for. So they did the Boston Globe sort of redesign, which was one of the biggest responsive web design redesigns a few years ago. So they kind of worked together, and that's how I kind of got that connection to Ethan.
And did he come just with open arms, or did he have to be coerced?
No, he was super excited to be involved. I did not have to coerce him at all.
No blackmail?
Not that I could say on air. No, I'm just kidding. There was no blackmail at all. Yeah, he's super excited to come out and come to the zoo, and yeah.
Come to the zoo. I like it.
Hang out at the zoo.
And what about Christian? I mean, he does love for the JavaScript world, and he's done all sorts of cool stuff. Always been a fan of his. So you got connections there as well?
Yeah, well, not quite as tight, I would say, but I don't know how I got connected to Christian originally, but I've just kind of followed him online since I started blogging, like back in 2006 or 2007. So I've just kind of been connected through Twitter and blogs online, and I saw that he was going to be in the country because he's from London originally, or currently, I should say. And so he was going to be in the country, and he actually rescheduled one of his flights back to London so that he could come out and speak. So very, very accommodating for us.
One of the things that people always get most concerned about when putting on a conference is, one, will anybody show up? Two, will I get quality speakers or anything that's worthwhile for people to actually show up for? And if they do show up and the speakers show up too, will everybody enjoy it? So, I mean, knowing all those three kind of pillars of fear, so to speak, when it comes to a conference, I just coined that just now, by the way.
The
Pillars of fear.
3 pillars of fear.
You should work at local news.
I do work at
Any
local
news affiliate.
right here in Houston, myfoxhouston.com. No, but on a serious note though, so like around the topics, around the keynote speakers, was there anybody like, throwing up or getting upset or just like really just like ruining their day over just the worry, the anxiety that comes from those 3 things?
Definitely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge amount of stress that goes into running a conference, and we sort of had Ethan from the beginning, which was very good because that helped us, I think, get us more exposure. And so we had Ethan published before we even did the CFP, which I think helped us get a lot more submissions, or sort of legitimized us as a conference before we even started. And then we got Christian a few weeks ago. But getting the speakers there, I think, is just one small pillar in the pillars of fear, as it were. There's just so many other things that are going on that you have to worry about as well. So logistics are kind of a nightmare when it comes to conferences.
What about financing and reseating and things like that? How does that play out with the 6 organizers you have? How does the responsibility and the financial responsibility and things like that play out? And like, who ponies up the first dollar? How does it work? That's my biggest, like, how do you actually do a conference?
So, I mean, all the organizers sort of ponied up a fixed sum to get because we formed an LLC to get it started. And then the sponsorship dollars started rolling in, and we started doing ticket sales. And so we've been able to sort of stay ahead of the game in terms of paying receipts or paying invoices.
So a legitimate business was set up to sort of be the crux of this thing, not just hey, you're like in Jerod's case, like Object Lateral or any of your guys' businesses. Like, it didn't mix. You created your own organization and took some ownership in it to a degree.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I'd throw around the word legitimate that lightly, but certainly an LLC was formed.
The state of Nebraska thinks we're legitimate. That's
correct.
As far as we can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all you got to have right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is very much like setting up a real live business, basically. I mean, you're gonna at the end of the year, you're gonna have, you're gonna have pass through tax to somebody. Somebody's on the hook for some of this money if there's any profit, right?
That's the goal.
So,
That's why I said no profits. There's your goal right there.
Right, no profits is the goal.
Yep.
Okay, I was just thinking from the audience perspective.
Insurance is a concern. We set up an LLC because there's some personal protections there against things going wrong. Cash flow. Actually, for us, I've been surprised. I thought cash flow would be a big problem. Aside from that one sponsorship thing that Zach talked about, we've actually been pretty cash flow positive as far as the down payments we have to put to reserve things and this and that. I think had sponsors not stepped up so generously right away, I think it would have been a lot harder sledding because we would have to make tighter decisions and wait on things and rely on ticket sales. So we've been really fortunate that there's so many great sponsors here locally that hopped on board like right away.
Yeah, the sponsors were just like, I feel like they were waiting for something to come around like this so they could jump on board.
Really?
Because it took very little coaxing to get sponsors.
So was it sponsors first, speakers second? Is that what I mean? Because just thinking from a cash flow standpoint, you think about sales to a degree, and you got to get sales to put a product out there, and the product is the conference. You can't put the conference on until you get sponsors to commit and speakers to commit and things like that. So, and you got to have a place to call home. So you can't get that until you put some money down. So it seems like this never-ending chicken and egg scenario for at least for a first-time conference. First year.
Yeah. Well, luckily, a lot of our speakers have deferred reimbursement until the day of the conference. So that kind of helped us in the beginning. But, our sponsors really were so excited to get involved that we had a pretty good sum to start paying our bills very early. And I think it also helped that we refused to put people on the website until we got payment. So we wouldn't put anybody's logo on there until we got money. So
that's a good rule to have right there.
Yep.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the show. Let's take one more break while we have some time to hear a word from one of our awesome sponsors making this show possible. When we come back, we're going to talk about some closing topics like collaboration tools for the team. I like that little note there, Jerod. Didn't quite think about the collaboration necessary behind the scenes. And then, the other thing I mentioned, which was the fear of nobody showing up. I'm kind of curious what y'all think about that. So let's pause here, listen to this awesome sponsor, and then when we come back, we'll talk about those things. So, right back. HipChat is a game changer for team communication. It helps you and your team get the information you need faster than email and reduces meaningless meetings. Teams that use HipChat are able to make faster decisions and get more work done with group chat, video chat, and file sharing. HipChat is a great solution for distributed teams by letting you take the office with you no matter where you go. iPhone, Android, Mac OS, it's all there. HipChat is easy to use and gets everyone working in real time. And right now, HipChat is offering listeners of the Changelog 90 days of HipChat Plus totally free. Get premium features like unlimited file storage, unlimited message history, and guaranteed support totally for free for 90 days. Visit hipchat.com/changelog. Again, that's hipchat.com/changelog. Get your team started using HipChat Plus today. Go and check them out. All right, we're back to close up the show with Nick, Zach, and Jerod talking about JavaScript in the wild here in the middle America, Nebraska. Man, I'm excited to get there for one. Jerod, I haven't visited yet, so that's I'm so excited to finally come out to Omaha. I've already done some business with local places around there. Ink, what's it? The Ink Tank there.
Ink Tank.
The guy,
yep.
Yeah, I've done some business with them. Work with you and stuff like that, but hadn't visited this fabulous place. And there's finally a reason to go, which is this JavaScript conference we're talking about here. And I guess since we're talking about showing up, Nick, did you have any concerns yourself? Like, did you said yes to the anxiety earlier, but you didn't elaborate. So can you elaborate a bit on this idea of no one showing up, the fear of nobody showing up for a conference, and you being an organizer of it?
Sure. I guess now at this point, I'm not worried too much about people showing up, just seeing the ticket sales and the positive comments that we've gotten. But that was definitely a concern going into it. Just, I'm not sure, if anybody will think that this is a good idea. But as Zach mentioned, getting Ethan on board right away really helped to, as he said, legitimize it. The thing that's really scary now is we're 16 days away from it at this point, and there's so much left to do. We have all of these tickets and things, kind of these plates still spinning. And then, we'll get all of that settled in and be ready for the conference the day of. And then, my biggest fear is waking up in a cold sweat that morning and realizing we forgot microphones or something like, something so necessary and yet so small that we just kind of overlooked it. I'm really scared of that, but I think that we'll be fine. It's just a terror thing that I have, I guess. But then finally, just, will people have fun? Will they enjoy the talks? Will there be technical problems there that we have to deal with on the spot? Will there be,
yes,
will
there
somebody
will be.
Yeah.
Yes. Every time.
Is somebody going to get mauled by one of the animals that we have coming into the conference?
Hopefully not.
I don't even know what kind of animals we're having, but
Elephants,
hopefully
of course,
a
right?
porcupine.
yeah.
Elephants, porcupines, lions, kitty cats.
No, I mean, I think porcupine is one of the animals that we might have, so.
Yep. I've heard that tarantulas,
possible.
maybe.
I need to increase that insurance deductible. Talk about that offline.
Glad it's an LLC.
Yeah.
All right, so something that you quite kind of mentioned there, Nick. It seemed like just this organization process behind the scenes with the rest of the 6. So you got 6 people that joined the NEJS team to put this conference on this year. What are some of the things that you've done? Who spearheaded it? Was there like a distinct leader? Was it sort of like all self-managed to come up with checklists and or did you sort of divide up in teams? How did y'all work to collaborate? I guess since you don't work in the same office, obviously, because this is not like a legitimate business, as you've said, this is a conference and you got your own things to do. How did you, collaborate day to day to make these things happen over time?
I think that we're all very self-driven and can work autonomously on things. We kind of knew what things at a high level we needed to tackle. If there is a distinguished leader, it'd definitely be Zach. He kind of, started putting things together, organizing ways that we can communicate. And I think it was either Zach or Jerod that recommended using Trello for organization. So we've been using that and just having lists of things to do and different stages for that and having everything as a card in there. And it's been working out pretty well.
Yeah, Trello is amazing. I don't think we could have organized a conference without it.
Yeah.
Well, we're in Trello all day long. We use it to do changelog weekly, so I know we can high five you on that one there. I could tell you more stories about Trello and agree with you, but I'll just leave it that I agree that Trello is super awesome. There isn't a tool out there that quite meets what it does for organizing people and the whole agile process, whether you're doing software or not. It's just really flexible to however you want to work.
Yeah. In addition to that, I've been taking cues as Adam and I have traveled around to conferences this year. We were at Space City JS in the spring, and y'all know we're at GopherCon a few weeks back. So as I go to these conferences, I'm very cognizant of how they're running things because I'm involved. And one of the things that Space City did, which I think was cool, and I think more conferences will start doing, is to open up a Slack team for the entire conference, so all the attendees can hop in there. And so we did that recently for NEJS. In addition to that, we have kind of an organized private room and a room for speakers. And one thing about Trello is it's not great for just discussion. It can get a little bit cumbersome for that.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize it, but we were doing too much just chatting inside Trello because we didn't have an auxiliary tool. And so in the last month or so, Zach set up a Slack team, and that has really balanced out where we have kind of your immediate needs, quick feedback, paste a stupid GIF in there, chat room, and then you have Trello, which is all about the organized, assigned things that need doing. I think that's really been a good combination of tools for us.
Slack is the party in the front, and Trello's the business in the back.
Yeah, really rounding out the NEJS mullet that we're going for here.
I like it. Another important topic, which we saw, Jerod, since you mentioned GopherCon, I loved their idea of a diversity scholarship. Did y'all take some cues from that, or was it somewhere else? But you seem to be focused on the inclusivity and the accessibility of the conference. So what was this diversity scholarship about, and what were some, I guess, has there been anybody to take the free ticket? What's that process like?
Yeah, so we are doing diversity scholarships. We're through a local company called Big Wheel Brigade. They've offered 10 free tickets for people underrepresented in tech, whether that be gender, sex, sexuality, race, or veteran status, or any number of other things. And I think we've redeemed almost half of those tickets. And they are confidential, so to other attendees, that your badge isn't going to be different or anything. The ticket will be identical to any other attendee ticket. But I think we've only redeemed half of those so far.
Are there any caveats to that? Like, what's the criteria to meet is it even you guys that take care of this, or is it totally through Big Wheel Brigade that they handle that? I see Beth's name here. I'm just wondering if she's totally taking over that at all points.
Yeah, she is the point of contact for that. So she actually will go out and buy the tickets on our website using a special coupon code that we have for her. And so, yeah, that's kind of how that sponsorship works. And they really aren't doing any question or interrogation involved with that. They just will, hey, you want a ticket? Okay, here's the information that we need, and we'll buy it for you. So it's not like a formal thing that you have to go through, like an application process. It's really just, hey, I would like to go to this conference. They'll get you a ticket. So
I like the paragraph here under that form too, because I think everybody approaches this topic, sort of on their tippy toes, because no one wants to offend anybody. But I like this bolded text you have here. If you would like to take advantage of this offer, but are hesitant to publicly self-identify as belonging to an underrepresented group, please be assured that we will receive your request with acceptance and respect, and will keep it confidential. So I think it's just going the extra mile to, one, be inclusive and accepting of everyone, and giving everyone an opportunity to be there, especially the underrepresented. So that's really neat that the way you've handled this, and even having an outside company sort of one, sponsor it and pay for those tickets, and then just have a process for it. It seems like you've really thought this through. So I like it.
Yeah, I think it worked pretty well. They actually ran a little seminar not too long ago on sort of running inclusive events and dealing with sort of problems that can arise when you're an event organizer,
right,
which has been really helpful. And that's kind of where we got the idea to do something like this. So
we got 5 more of these diversity scholarship tickets available. So if you're listening and you're a part of one of those groups, I just read that text there. You'll be accepted and respected, and more importantly, confidential. So feel free to get in touch and take advantage of this if you're in one of those groups. Cool. What's some closing thoughts, Jerod? Help me out here with some closing thoughts. I know we normally have some closing questions, and you're sort of not playing interviewer.
Yeah, I think closing thoughts is obviously there's still a handful of tickets available. Omaha's a really cool city, centrally located. So if you're anywhere in the Midwest, it's actually pretty easy to get over here. We'd love to have you. Changelog will be there, especially at the after party and shooting our awesome film series Beyond Code. So you'll get to meet Adam and myself and DK, our video guy. Yeah, we just hope it's a good time. We've been trying to line up all our ducks in a row, and so far, we've had a few freak out events, but I think we've pulled together as a team and are feeling pretty good about how it's going to turn out. I think one thing we didn't talk about, which I forgot until just now, is the hardest part of the whole conference for us was probably naming it. Man, maybe that was why it took so long for us to come up with the conference. Because we went through dozens and dozens of names trying to be witty and cool.
Yeah.
And around and around and around we went. And eventually we realized we're not witty and we're not cool. So we're just gonna name it with using our meetup's name. I don't know. Maybe Nick, can you remember any of the names that we had on the table? I know the one that was kind of a front runner for a while was Flyover JS.
Yes.
Because we're, Nebraska's kind of one of those flyover states, but we had tons of them. Can you think of any others?
Oh man. That was the one that really came to mind. That was my favorite for a long time. We also had, well, there was one that we wanted right off the bat, but it was taken as there's another conference with the same name.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember.
We had Bullseye JS, Central Standard JS, Heartland JS,
Bug Eater JS.
Bug Eater. Yeah, that's kind of a thing. I think a thing that people outside of Nebraska will have no idea what it means.
Yeah, Bug Eater.
Yeah.
Little Web on the Prairie. That was one of yours, Zach. There was spreadsheets and talking about arguments. Nothing quite as argumentative as your favorite name, not liked by your compatriots.
So what about the subtitle then? Will that remain each year? Will it always be at the zoo? I guess you'll probably know more after this year if things go badly, but somebody gets eaten, for example. We come back with one less JavaScripter out there because the lion got hungry. But will it always be JavaScript in the wild, or do you think you'll kind of keep mixing it up each year?
I think we'll probably try a different venue next year. I don't know. It depends on how it goes, obviously, but
Yeah.
I didn't expect that we would do at the zoo every year. So
Okay. Well, it's nice to show some love to different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I don't really have any more questions myself. I'm used to always asking some of the famous questions at the end. Does anybody feel totally strong on answering the "Who's your programming hero" question? Jerod, you never get asked that question. You're always on the other end. How about you?
I want to
have a hero.
I'm going to pass this one on to Nick.
He's your hero, or
No, I want to know Nick's hero.
no?
Fine.
I can answer it if you don't want to, Nick. That's fine.
I'm going to pass it along to Zach and also just name Zach as my hero.
Oh, boy. Wow, Zach.
Wow, that's a low bar, Nick. I want to say John Resnick. I think that, not in terms of necessarily, he's a very super talented programmer, obviously, but I think the way he ran the jQuery community is just kind of an amazing thing. And he definitely grew a very inclusive and welcoming community. And I think a lot of that was just because of his personality. And yeah, maybe that dates me a few years, but
I don't think it dates you. I think if I had to make a list of many heroes, John would definitely be in the list because of the same reasons. He came out of the cut too with jQuery. He just shared it one day in Boston at a meetup, which is sometimes how the best software comes out into the open source public. Yeah. And then there was several other ways that you could do what jQuery did. Well, there weren't that many, but jQuery sort of made it really easy to learn. And then even the way, like you said, the community sort of sprout up around it, it seemed to just grow really, really fast.
Yeah.
So, and then John he's never really backed down from giving talks and organizing and speaking in front of people and stuff like that. I know that we've never had him on this show because never emailed him, but nonetheless, we would like to have John on the show at some point. We just never have. I guess with that, is there anything else you want to cover about the conference or heroes or anything else that might be on anyone's mind that we can, maybe a particular sponsor?
I did want to say one thing, I guess not related to sponsorship, but the thing that I think I've learned the most about running a conference has been how difficult it is. And you definitely see, when you attend conferences, you see those in a new light. And I guess I would encourage everyone out there to, the next time you go to a conference, if personal space is not an issue for you, hug your conference organizer, because It is a ton of work. It's a ton of work, and it's sometimes very thankless work. And people are doing these development community conferences not for money. There's a lot of conferences that are just sort of community driven, and people are doing them sort of as a labor of love, just to grow their local development community and sort of give the community more exposure in a wider sense. So definitely give some love to your organizers if you see them.
I'd just like to thank the local community. You know, Omaha has a great development community, and they're very inspiring. Everyone is always passionate about what they're working on. And, you know, aside from Jerod motivating us to get this started, you know, it's really the community that was doing it too. Just the number of people here that just do great things is huge, and we want to be able to share that with the world.
Well, I think I can agree on Jerod's help there. He's helped me out a lot, quite a bit, making things happen whenever I'm like hemming and hawing. So Jerod, you seem to do it everywhere, man. So good for you on that part. So just to summarize, NEJS Conf is on our Friday, August 7th. There are still tickets available. If you're in a marginalized or underrepresented group, there is 5 more of confidential tickets that you will be respected. So submit your information for that if you'd like to take advantage of that. For those of you out there who are thinking about this awesome conference, it's all about animals, elephants at the zoo, JavaScript getting wild. So it's going to be in the wild, JavaScript in the wild. So exciting times here. So the website to go to is what? NEJSconf.com.
Correct.
Now I'm noticing like an SSL issue on your site. Is there an SSL issue on your site?
I hope not.
No?
So it should be subdomainless, so it should be just nejsconf.com, not www.
That's right. Yeah, we don't like the stuff. That's the way of the
4
dodo.
extra characters you gotta type.
Yeah, nobody needs that. So if you're interested in this conference, the changelog will be there. We'll see you there. Hop on camera, say some things for Beyond Code. Jerod, I didn't tell you this, but we got a new piece of equipment we're bringing with us that everyone's gonna love. So no drones, not yet. That's maybe sometime soon. But the equipment we're bringing this time is a Steadicam.
Oh,
so we're pretty excited about this because we'll be able to walk and like follow people, or like, you know, just move lightly with the camera. They call it flying with the camera, but nonetheless, excited about that new piece of equipment. So every time we go to a conference, we go with something that is some sort of new toy that DK likes to play with. So this will give DK a chance to fly the camera around and get some good shots and have some fun. So we're excited about that. So nejsconf.com. Go there and get your ticket. We'll see you there on August 7th. It's a Friday at the zoo with the elephants and the rest of the JavaScript community. And with that, everybody, let's close the show out and say goodbye.
See ya.
Thanks. See you guys.